The alarm screamed through the mining station like a dying animal. Captain Jinho ran down the metal corridor, his boots making loud sounds on the floor. He had been drinking coffee in his office when the sensors picked up the ships. Big ships. Lots of them. How many? He asked as he burst into the control room. Yuna looked up from her screen. Her face was pale. She was the chief scientist on New Busan Station. And Jinho had never seen her scared before. 37 warships, Captain. Vralok's Empire markings. Jinho felt his stomach drop. The Vraloks were one of the strongest species in the galaxy. They looked like giant lizards, with scales that could stop bullets and claws that could cut through steel. They had been part of the Galactic Council for over 2,000 years. Humans had only joined 50 years ago. Are they hailing us? Jinho asked. Minho, the head of security, pressed a button. A face appeared on the screen. It was a Vralok's commander, with dark green scales and yellow eyes that looked at them like they were insects. Human settlement. This world now belongs to the Vralok's Empire. You have 1 hour to surrender and leave. Any resistance will be met with destruction. Jinho stepped forward. This is Captain Jinho of New Busan Station. This world is registered to Earth under Galactic Council law. You have no right to demand our surrender. The Vralok's commander made a sound that might have been laughter. It sounded like rocks grinding together. Rights? You speak of rights? You humans are new here. Weak. Soft. You have no weapons. No natural armor. No real strength. This world has iridium deposits worth more than your entire planet. We are taking it. You may leave alive if you go now. We're not leaving, Jinho said. His voice was steady, even though his hands were shaking. This is our home. We've been here for 10 years. Well, the Vralok's commander tilted his head. Then you will die here. You have 1 hour. The screen went black. The control room was silent. There were 6 people there, all staring at Jinho. Outside this room, there were 194 more people on the station. Miners, scientists, engineers. The closest Earth military ship was 3 weeks away. Send a distress signal to Earth, Jinho said quietly. Tell them what's happening. Tell them we need help. Yuna's fingers moved fast on her keyboard. Signal sent. But Captain, they said 1 hour. Even if Earth sends ships right now, they won't get here in time. Minho stood up. He was a big man, with scars on his face from his time in the Special Forces back on Earth. We have mining lasers, some explosives for breaking rocks, a few handheld weapons for dealing with wildlife. Nothing that can fight a warship. I know, Jinho said. He looked at each person in the room. Send a message to everyone on the station. Tell them to meet in the main hall in 10 minutes. 10 minutes later, Jinho stood in front of almost 200 people. They were scared. Some were crying. Parents held their children close. These were not soldiers. They were ordinary people who had come to this distant world to build a new life. You all know what's happening, Jinho said. The Vraloks are demanding we leave. They've given us 1 hour. After that, they'll attack. He paused. I'm not going to lie to you. We don't have the weapons to fight them. If we resist, many of us will probably die. A woman in the crowd shouted, Then we should leave. We should take the transport ships and go. We could do that, Jinho agreed. We could run. We could abandon everything we've built here. Our homes, our work, our dignity. He looked around the room, but I want to tell you something about humans. Something the Vraloks don't know. He took a deep breath. Humans have always been weak. Back on Earth, we had no claws, no sharp teeth, no armor, no venom. We were slower than most predators, weaker than most prey. By all logic, we should have died out millions of years ago. Minho stepped forward to stand beside Jinho. But we didn't die out. We survived. You know why? Because when something tried to kill us, we didn't give up. We didn't run away and accept defeat. We fought back with everything we had. Yuna joined them. We're good at surviving. It's what we do. Our ancestors survived ice ages, diseases, wars, and disasters. They survived because they refused to quit, even when everything looked hopeless. Jinho nodded. The Vraloks think we're weak because we don't have scales or claws. They think this will be easy. They think we'll just run away or surrender quietly. He smiled. But it wasn't a friendly smile. They're about to learn something important about humans. We don't quit. We don't give up. And we really, really don't like bullies. A man in the crowd stood up. What do you need us to do, Captain? I need miners who know how to use cutting lasers. I need engineers who can turn our tools into weapons. I need anyone who's willing to fight to protect our home. Hands started going up. First a few, then more, then almost everyone, even the elderly, even some of the teenagers. We sent a distress signal to Earth, Jinho continued. Help is coming. But it's going to take at least 3 weeks to get here. Maybe longer. So we need to do something the Vraloks don't expect. We need to survive. We need to hold out. We need to make them regret ever coming here. The hour passed. The Vraloks ships moved closer. Their commander sent one final message. Last chance, humans. Surrender or die. Jinho sat in the control room, surrounded by his people. Minho had teams positioned throughout the station with every weapon they could make. Yuna had her scientists working on ways to fight back. The children and those who couldn't fight were hidden in the deepest, most protected part of the station. Send them our response, Jinho said. The message was simple. Just 2 words. 2 words that would start a war the galaxy would never forget. Come try. The first Vraloks missiles hit the station's shields. The lights flickered. Somewhere, someone was screaming. But Jinho didn't move. He just watched the screens and smiled. The Vraloks had made a mistake. They had attacked humans. They had threatened human families. They had thought humans were weak. They were about to learn the truth. Humans weren't the strongest species. They weren't the fastest or the smartest. But they were the most stubborn. They were survivors. And when you backed a human into a corner, when you threatened everything they loved, they became the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. The war had begun, and the Vraloks had no idea what they had started. 3 days into the siege, Commander Vex of the Vraloks Empire was confused. He stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the human mining station. It should have fallen by now. Any reasonable species would have surrendered after the first attack. Status report, he demanded. His second officer checked the screens. The station's shields are at 30%. Their eastern section is destroyed. They have no functioning weapons that can harm us. But they're still fighting, Commander. Still fighting? Vex's tail lashed in anger. With what? Mining equipment, sir. They've modified their industrial lasers. They're using explosives meant for breaking rocks. One team even threw chunks of metal at our landing party. Vex couldn't believe it. They're throwing rocks at us? Metal debris, sir. But yes. Essentially rocks. This made no sense. In the Galactic Council database, humans were listed as Category 4. Non-threatening. They were a species with no natural weapons. No armor. No psionic abilities. They were supposed to be easy to defeat. What the database didn't explain was why humans were like this. It didn't mention that humans came from a death world, a planet where almost everything was trying to kill you, where the weather could freeze you solid or cook you alive, where diseases and predators hunted constantly. The database didn't mention that humans were the only species in the galaxy who evolved as persistence hunters. They couldn't run fast for short distances like most predators. Instead, they could run forever. They would chase prey for hours, sometimes days, until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. Then, they would kill it. The database definitely didn't mention what this meant. It meant humans knew how to wait, how to endure, how to keep going when any sane creature would give up. Inside the station, Minho organized his security teams. They had lost 30 people in the first 3 days, but they had also killed over 100 Vralok soldiers. The aliens were stronger, yes. They had better armor and weapons. But they didn't understand guerrilla warfare. Team 3, fall back to Corridor 7. Minho spoke into his radio. Let them follow you. Team 5, wait until they pass your position. Then hit them from behind. It was a tactic humans had used for thousands of years. Never fight fair. Never face a stronger enemy head-on. Hit and run. Make them bleed for every meter. Make them afraid to turn a corner. In her lab, Yuna made a discovery. She had been studying the Vrolok's bodies from the soldiers they had killed. Their scales were tough, but they had weaknesses. She found that their hearing was very sensitive. Much more sensitive than human hearing. Quan. She called to the engineer working next to her. Can you build a device that makes high-frequency sound? Something that would hurt their ears but not affect humans? Quan looked at the data. He was young, barely 25, but he was brilliant. Give me 6 hours and every speaker we have on the station. I can make something. 5 hours later, they tested it. A Vrolok's boarding party came through the southern airlock. Quan activated his device. The Vrolok's soldiers dropped their weapons and screamed. They clutched their heads, trying to block out the sound that was too high for humans to even hear. Minho's team took them down easily. It works, Yuna said with satisfaction. It actually works. But the situation was still desperate. The station was falling apart. Food was running low. The shields were almost gone. People were exhausted from days without real sleep, and the Vroloks kept coming. On day 12, Commander Vex lost his patience. This is insane, he told his officers. They should be dead. They should have surrendered. What kind of species fights like this? His communication officer looked nervous. Sir, we've been receiving messages from the Galactic Council. Other species are watching. They want to know why this is taking so long. Tell them these humans are crazy, Vex shouted. They fight with mining equipment. They refuse to acknowledge they're beaten. They don't follow any civilized rules of warfare. What Vex didn't understand was that humans had been fighting wars for their entire history. They had thousands of years of experience in killing each other. They knew every trick, every strategy, every dirty tactic that worked. The Vrolok's empire had been peaceful for centuries. Their soldiers trained against computer simulations. Human soldiers trained against other humans. On day 15, something changed. The station's long-range sensors picked up new contacts. Ships. Lots of them. But these weren't Vrolok's ships. Captain, the sensor operator yelled. We have contacts entering the system. I'm reading. Oh my God. I'm reading Earth Defense Force transponders. Jinho felt hope for the first time in 2 weeks. How many ships? 20, sir. No, wait. More are appearing. 30. 40. They're still coming through the jump point. On the bridge of the EDF flagship, Admiral Hyun studied the tactical display. He was an old man, with gray hair and cold eyes. He had fought in the border wars against pirates. He had seen terrible things. But when he got the distress call from New Busan, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Pure rage. Someone had attacked human civilians. Someone had threatened human children. All ships, battle formation, he ordered. Prepare for combat. His communication officer spoke up. Sir, we're being hailed by the Vrolok's flagship. They're demanding we withdraw. They claim this world is now Vrolok's territory. Tell them to surrender immediately or we will destroy every one of their ships, Hyun said calmly. The officer blinked. Sir, they outnumber us 10 to 1. I don't care if they outnumber us 100 to 1, Hyun replied. They attacked our people. There will be consequences. Send the message. The Vroloks laughed at the human demands. Commander Vex couldn't believe their arrogance. They want us to surrender? They have 40 ships. We have 350. This will be over in an hour. But Lieutenant Suri, piloting her fighter from the carrier, smiled inside her helmet. The Vroloks had big, powerful warships. They were designed for long-range combat, civilized combat, where you exchanged missiles and energy beams from a safe distance. Humans didn't fight that way. All fighters, follow my lead, Suri said. Get in close. I mean, really close. Make them panic. The human fighters screamed forward. They didn't try to maintain safe distances. They flew straight at the Vralox ships, dodging between them, too close for the big guns to track. They were like angry hornets attacking a bear. On the flagship, Hyun watched the chaos. Now, he ordered. All ships, full speed ahead. Ram their formation. Get to point-blank range. His officers looked at him in shock. Sir, that's suicide. No, Hyun said. That's how humans fight. We don't play games. We don't follow your polite rules. We get close enough to smell your breath, and then we make you bleed. The human ships charged forward. The Vralox tried to maintain distance, but the humans were faster, more maneuverable, and completely insane. One human destroyer got hit badly. Its engines were failing. It was going to die anyway, so the captain did something no civilized species would consider. He aimed his dying ship at a Vralox cruiser and rammed it at full speed. Both ships exploded in a ball of fire. On every Vralox ship, the same thought appeared. What kind of species does that? Inside the station, Jinho watched the battle on his screens. He was crying. Not from fear, but from relief. His people had held out for 15 days. 15 days with no hope, no real weapons, and no reason to think they would survive. But they had survived, because they were human. Because giving up wasn't in their nature. Commander Vex sent a message to his fleet. Retreat! Get back to the jump point! But it was too late. The humans were everywhere. In the confusion, Engineer Quan did something clever. He hacked into the Vralox communication network. It wasn't hard. The Vralox had never worried about security before. Nobody had ever tried to hack their ships during a battle. Quan sent false orders. Vralox ships turned on each other. Their formations fell apart, and the human ships tore through them like sharks through fish. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it was over, 212 Vralox ships were destroyed or captured. The rest jumped away, running for their lives. The humans lost 18 ships, but they had won. And across the galaxy, every species watched and wondered, what have we been sharing space with all this time? The Vralox Empire had never lost a battle in 300 years. Now they had lost an entire fleet in 4 hours. Their empress sat in her throne room, surrounded by advisors who were all talking at once. We must send more ships. We should negotiate. How did this happen? The empress silenced them with a gesture. How many ships did we lose? Her military commander looked at the floor. 212. My empress. The humans captured another 43. They're studying our technology now. 2. And the human losses? 18 ships. They sacrificed 3 more in ramming attacks. The empress felt something she had never experienced before. Fear. They sacrificed their own ships? On purpose? Yes, my empress. They rammed our vessels when their own ships were damaged. They chose to die, taking us with them. This was wrong. This was against every rule of civilized warfare. You didn't sacrifice yourself. You surrendered when the battle was lost. You followed protocols. You acted with honor and dignity. Humans didn't seem to care about any of that. Send 6 more fleets, the Empress ordered. Crush them. Show them the power of the Vralox Empire. But Admiral Hyun wasn't finished. He stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked at his officers. The station is secure. Our people are safe. But we're not done. Not by a long shot. Sir? His second officer asked. What are your orders? The Vralox attacked human civilians. They threatened children. They thought they could bully us because we're new to the galaxy. Hyun's voice was cold as ice. We're going to teach them what happens when you attack Earth. Plot a course for the nearest Vralox colony world. His officers stared at him. Sir, that's an act of war. They started the war, Hyun replied. We're going to finish it. Across space, Captain Yunji prepared her ship for its mission. The Ghost of Seoul was a stealth vessel, one of Earth's newest designs. It could slip through enemy sensors, like a shadow. Unji was one of the best captains in the fleet, known for doing impossible things. "Are we really doing this?" her pilot asked. Unji smiled. "We're going to board a Vrolok's flagship. We're going to walk right into their command center. And we're going to show them that nowhere is safe from humans." "That's insane." "Captain." "Yes." Unji agreed. "That's what makes it perfect. They won't expect it because no sane species would try it." The Ghost of Seoul slipped through the Vrolok's defensive fleet like smoke. The Vrolok's sensors couldn't detect it. They were looking for big ships. Loud ships. Normal ships. They weren't looking for something that could hide in the shadow of their own vessels. Sergeant Do-yoon checked his gear one more time. He led the ship's boarding team. 20 Marines trained for close combat. Back on Earth, he had studied every martial art he could find: judo, boxing, knife fighting, wrestling. The Vroloks were stronger than humans. They had scales and claws, but they had never fought in hand-to-hand combat. Their species had been civilized for too long. They had forgotten how to brawl. Humans had never forgotten. 5 minutes to contact, Unji announced. The boarding team is clear to proceed. I'm said. 5 minutes. The Ghost of Seoul attached to the Vrolok's flagship like a parasite. Cutting torches burned through the hull. Alarms screamed on the Vrolok's ship, but by then it was too late. Do-yoon and his Marines poured through the breach. The first Vrolok soldier they met raised his weapon, but Do-yoon was faster. He didn't shoot. Bullets could pierce the hull. Instead, he moved in close. Too close for the Vroloks to use his rifle. His knife found the weak point under the alien's scales, right where Yuna's research said it would be. The Vroloks fell. "Go, go, go!" Do-yoon shouted. His team moved like water, flowing through the corridors. When Vrolok soldiers tried to stop them, the Marines got in close. They used knives, they used their fists, they used anything they could grab. One Marine even used a broken pipe as a club. The Vroloks were terrified. This wasn't how battles worked. You weren't supposed to fight this close. You weren't supposed to grapple and stab and punch. It was barbaric. It was primitive. It was effective. Kwon, who had come along as the technical specialist, reached the ship's computer core. His fingers flew over the keyboard. He didn't need to understand the Vrolok's language. Code was universal, and humans had been hacking computer systems since computers were invented. "I'm in," he said. "I have control of their engines, weapons, and life support." Do-yoon grinned. "Can you lock all the doors except the ones we need?" "Already done. Their reinforcements are trapped on the other side of the ship." The Marines fought their way to the bridge. The Vrolok's captain tried to seal the door, but Kwon had already overridden it. When they burst in, the captain reached for his sidearm. Do-yoon shot him in the hand. Not to kill, just to disarm. Then he walked forward and grabbed the captain by his uniform. "Your Empress needs to see this," he said. He turned to look at the main view screen, where other Vrolok ships were watching. "You started this fight. You attacked civilians. You thought humans were weak. Now you know the truth." He released the captain and spoke into his radio. "Captain Yunji, we have the bridge. The ship is ours." Across the Vrolok's fleet, panic spread. The humans had boarded a flagship. They had captured it from the inside. That was impossible. That was something from ancient history, from before civilized warfare. But humans came from ancient history. They had been fighting for thousands of years. They knew every brutal, dirty trick that worked. More human ships arrived. The battle that followed was nothing like the Vroloks had ever seen. Human ships flew in patterns that seemed random but weren't. They coordinated attacks from multiple angles. They used the captured Vrolok's flagship to send false orders. And when a human ship was damaged, instead of retreating, it pushed forward. Humans didn't run away from a fight. They ran toward it. Hana, the communication officer on the main fleet, intercepted a message between Vrolok's commanders. She translated it and sent it to Admiral Hyun. The message said, "They fight like animals. They have no honor." Hyun read it and smiled grimly. "Broadcast this on all frequencies," he told Hana. "We want everyone to hear. The Vroloks. The Galactic Council. Everyone." Hana activated the broadcast. Hyun's face appeared on every screen in the sector. "This is Admiral Hyun of the Earth Defense Force. To the Vrolok's Empire. You started this war by attacking our civilians. You thought we were weak because we don't have scales or claws. You were wrong. Humans are the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. We survived on a world that tried to kill us every day. We crawled up from nothing to conquer our own planet. And now we're here, among the stars, and we won't be bullied." He paused. "You have 48 hours to withdraw from all disputed territories and surrender your military fleet. If you refuse, we will bring this fight to your homeworld, and we will show you what humans do to those who threaten our families." The message ended. In the Vrolok's throne room, the Empress watched the broadcast 3 times. Her advisors were silent. Finally, one spoke up. "My Empress, perhaps we should negotiate. The humans are more dangerous than we thought." "Negotiate?" she hissed. "The Vrolok's empire does not negotiate with primitives. With respect, my Empress, these primitives have destroyed 2 of our fleets and captured 1 of our flagships. They fight in ways we don't understand. They don't follow civilized rules. They don't seem to care about their own casualties. How do we defeat an enemy like that?" The Empress had no answer. 6 more Vrolok's fleets jumped into the sector. The humans were outnumbered 20-1. Any reasonable species would retreat, would call for reinforcements, would play it safe. The humans charged straight at them. Sergeant Do-yoon, still on the captured flagship, watched the battle from the bridge. A young Marine next to him looked nervous. "Sarge, there's so many of them." Do-yoon checked his rifle. "Yeah. That just means we have more targets. Remember what they taught us in basic training? Humans didn't become the top predator on Earth by giving up. We became top predator by being too stubborn to die." The Marine smiled. "Hoorah. Damn right, hoorah." The battle raged for 2 days. When it ended, the humans had won again. They had lost more ships this time. The casualties were heavy, but they had broken another Vrolok's fleet. And across the galaxy, every species was asking the same question. What have the Vroloks awakened? The Galactic Council chamber was filled with representatives from 200 different species. They all watched the holographic display in the center of the room. It showed the human Vrolok's war. What had started as a small attack on one mining station had become the biggest war in 1,000 years. Ambassador Minji stood at Earth's podium. She was a small woman, barely 5 feet tall. But when she spoke, everyone listened. "This war has been going on for 2 months now. 2 months since the Vroloks attacked a peaceful mining station. 2 months since they threatened to kill civilian families. Does anyone here want to explain to me why the Council has done nothing?" A tall, insect-like representative from the Trell Collective clicked its mandibles. "Ambassador Minji, the Council does not interfere in bilateral conflicts. This is between Earth and the Vrolok's Empire." "Bilateral conflict?" Minji's voice was sharp. "The Vroloks committed 47 treaty violations when they attacked without declaration of war. They targeted civilians. They gave no chance for evacuation. These are war crimes. Your species is making this war worse," another representative said. This one was from the Keltar Union, traditional allies of the Vroloks. "Your military tactics are barbaric. You ram ships, you board vessels in space, you fight at close range. These tactics are from primitive times." Minji smiled, but it wasn't friendly. "Yes. We fight like primitives. You know why? Because it works. Because while you've all been living in peace and luxury for centuries, humans have been fighting wars since we learned to walk. We've had 2 world wars. We've survived ice ages, plagues, famines, and disasters. Every generation of humans has had to fight to survive. We didn't forget how. We never will. She touched a button on her podium. New images appeared. Let me show you something. This is Earth's history. 5,000 years of warfare. Humans fighting humans with swords, spears, guns, bombs, everything we could create. We learned to fight in deserts, jungles, mountains, oceans, and ice. We learned strategy and tactics from constantly trying to kill each other. The images changed. This is the Vrolox Empire's history. The last war you fought was 400 years ago. It lasted 6 months and ended in a negotiated peace. Your soldiers train with simulations, ours train by fighting each other. Your species evolved with natural armor and weapons. Ours had to create them. Every tool we made, every weapon we invented, came from need, from desperation, from the knowledge that if we didn't adapt, we would die. The council chamber was silent. On Earth, a war correspondent named Tejo was embedded with the fleet. He sent daily reports back home. His latest broadcast was being watched by billions of people across the galaxy. This is Tejo, reporting from the EDF flagship Incheon. I'm watching something incredible. The human fleet just received news that a Vrolox battle group is heading for the colony on Proxima Station. The colonists there have 48 hours to evacuate, but Admiral Hyun has made a decision. Instead of waiting for the Vrolox to attack, he's taking the fleet there. He says no more human colonies will fall. No more families will be threatened. Tejo moved through the ship with his camera. I want to show you something. This is the medical bay. There are 200 wounded here. Some will never fight again. But when I asked them if this war was worth it, every single one said yes. They said the Vrolox made a mistake. They attacked civilians. And humans protect their own. Always. The broadcast cut to Admiral Hyun. The Vrolox think this is about territory. About resources. They're wrong. This is about respect. This is about showing the galaxy that humans won't be pushed around. We asked for peace. We followed the rules. And when someone attacked our people, we responded the only way we know how. With everything we have. 2. In the Vrolox Empire, things were falling apart. The Empress had lost 8 fleets. 8. That was more ships than had been destroyed in the last 1,000 years of Vrolox history combined. Her allies were abandoning her. Nobody wanted to be associated with a war against humanity. Not when humans fought like this. We need to stop them, one advisor said. We need to find their weakness. They don't have a weakness, another replied. That's the problem. They're weak individually. A single Vrolox warrior is stronger than 3 humans. But they don't fight as individuals. They fight as a group. They coordinate. They adapt. When we destroy their ships, they learn from it and change their tactics. When we kill their soldiers, the next wave fights differently. Commander Sojun, who was in charge of Earth's strategic operations, sat in his office looking at star charts. He was planning the next phase of the war. His team had analyzed every battle, every tactic the Vrolox used. They had found patterns. The Vrolox fight by the book, he explained to his staff. They have procedures for everything. When they see situation A, they respond with tactic B. It's predictable. We can use that. How, sir? Seojun smiled. We give them situation A. They respond with tactic B. But we're not really using situation A. We're faking it. And when they commit to their response, we hit them with something completely different. Something that's not in any manual or simulation. It worked perfectly. The next battle, the humans pretended to retreat. The Vrolox fleet pursued, just like their training said they should. Then the human ships turned around and attacked from below, where the Vrolox ships had weaker armor. It was a simple trick, but it worked because the Vrolox couldn't adapt fast enough. Back on New Busan Station, Yuna was still researching. Her sonic weapons had been distributed to every human ship and station. But she wasn't satisfied. She wanted to understand why the Vrolox had attacked in the first place. She found the answer in their biology. The Vroloks evolved on a world with abundant resources. They never had to compete much. When they ran out of something, they just moved to a new area. They didn't understand scarcity the way humans did. Humans evolved on a world where resources were limited, where if you didn't fight for food, territory, and survival, you died. It made humans aggressive, territorial, unwilling to back down. "We're not fighting for iridium," Yuna said to Jinho. "We're fighting because the Vroloks tried to take what's ours. It's instinct. It's in our DNA. Humans are the most territorial species in the galaxy. We just hide it under civilization and laws. But when someone threatens our territory, our families, our homes, all that civilization goes away. We become what we always were: predators." The war entered its third month. The Vroloks had lost control of 20 systems. Human ships were everywhere, striking fast and disappearing before reinforcements could arrive. It was guerrilla warfare on an interstellar scale. Other species started to worry. If humans could do this to the mighty Vroloks Empire, what could they do to anyone else? Ambassador Minji spoke to the council again. "We didn't want this war. We wanted peace. We wanted to be good neighbors. But the Vroloks thought we were weak. They thought they could bully us. Now look at the result. 20 systems lost. Over 1 million Vrolok soldiers dead. And we're still fighting. We'll keep fighting until the Vroloks surrender, or until we run out of people. And I promise you, we won't run out first." A representative from a neutral species stood up. "Ambassador, what do you want? What will make Earth stop this war?" Minji looked around the chamber. "We want the Vroloks Empress to apologize. We want reparations for the people they killed. We want them to surrender the officers who ordered the attack on civilians. And we want territory. 20 systems that are now controlled by human forces will remain human. That's the price for attacking us." "That's outrageous," the Vroloks representative shouted. "You're demanding we give up sovereignty over 20 systems?" "Yes," Minji said calmly. "You should have thought of that before you attacked civilians. You poked the bear. Now you pay the price." "Bear? What is a bear?" Minji showed them a video. "A large predator from Earth, attacking with claws and teeth. That's a bear. On Earth, there's a saying. Don't poke the bear. It means don't attack something that looks peaceful unless you're ready for the consequences. The Vroloks poked the bear. They poked humanity. Now they're learning what happens." In space, another battle raged. The humans had perfected their tactics now. They knew exactly how to fight the Vroloks. They knew every weakness. They had turned war into a science, but it was a science they had been studying for thousands of years, and the Vroloks were just learning. The tide of the war had turned completely. The Vroloks were losing, and everyone in the galaxy was watching, learning, understanding. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was terrifying. 3 months and 2 days after the first attack on New Busan Station, the Vroloks Empress finally admitted defeat. She sat alone in her throne room, watching the holographic display. Her empire was broken, 63 fleets destroyed, 112 worlds lost to human control, over 2 million soldiers dead, and the humans were still coming. Her communication officer entered quietly. "My Empress, Earth is transmitting a message. Admiral Hyun wishes to speak with you." "Let him gloat," she said bitterly. "Put him on screen." Admiral Hyun's face appeared. He looked tired. There were dark circles under his eyes. 3 months of constant warfare had aged him. But his eyes were still hard. Still cold. "Empress," he said simply. "Admiral, have you come to demand our complete surrender?" "Yes." There was no pleasure in his voice. No triumph, just fact. "Your empire attacked human civilians without warning. You murdered innocent people. You thought we were weak. You were wrong. Now you will face the consequences." The Empress wanted to argue, wanted to rage, but she had nothing left. "What are your terms?" "Unconditional surrender. All Vrolok's military forces will stand down immediately. You will surrender the officers who ordered the attack on New Busan Station. They will be tried for war crimes. You will pay reparations to the families of every human killed. And you will cede control of 50 systems to Earth. They are now human territory. 50 systems? That's insane. That's half of our empire. Hyun's expression didn't change. You attacked first. You escalated this war. You refused every chance for peace. This is the price. Accept it. Or we will continue this war until your empire no longer exists. The Empress looked at her advisors. They all looked away. Nobody wanted to continue fighting. We accept, she said quietly. Smart choice, Hyun replied. Earth will send representatives to formalize the surrender. You have 24 hours to broadcast your surrender to all your worlds. If any Vrolok's forces continue fighting after that, we will consider it a violation of the ceasefire, and the war will continue. The screen went dark. The next day, the Galactic Council held an emergency session. Every species was there. Everyone wanted to see what would happen next. Ambassador Minji walked to the center of the chamber. She carried a datapad with documentation of every Vrolok's treaty violation, every war crime, every civilian casualty. The war is over, she announced. The Vrolok's empire has surrendered unconditionally. But before we move on, I want everyone here to understand what happened. This wasn't just a war. This was a lesson. She activated the holographic display. The Vroloks attacked because they thought we were weak. They looked at humans and saw soft skin, no natural weapons, no armor. They saw a species that had only been in space for 200 years. They thought we would be easy to defeat. The display showed images from the war, human ships fighting impossible odds, Marines boarding enemy vessels, wounded soldiers refusing to give up. They were wrong. Humans aren't weak. We're survivors. We come from a world that tried to kill us every day. We evolved by fighting, adapting, and never giving up. That's what makes us human. That's what makes us dangerous. She paused and looked around the chamber. The Vroloks broke 47 treaties. They targeted civilians. They murdered families. Under Galactic Council law, they should face severe sanctions. I'm here to make sure they do. The council representative, an ancient being that looked like a floating crystal, spoke. Ambassador Minji, what sanctions does Earth request? Economic sanctions for the next 20 years, military restrictions, and most importantly, I want the council to acknowledge that the Vroloks started this war illegally. I want it in the record. I want every species in the galaxy to know what happens when you attack humans. The vote was unanimous. The Vroloks would face 20 years of sanctions. They were forbidden from rebuilding their military above defensive levels, and the war was officially declared to be their fault. But Minji wasn't done. I also propose a new law. From this day forward, any species that attacks another without proper declaration of war will face immediate intervention from the Galactic Council. No more surprise attacks. No more bullying of smaller species. We're going to have real peace, not just the absence of war. The representative from the Keltar Union stood up. Ambassador, such a law would require unanimous consent. The Council has never passed such a strong restriction on member species. Then let's make history, Minji said. Vote now. Show the galaxy that we've learned from this war. After hours of debate, the vote passed. Not unanimously, but with a large majority. It was the strongest peace law the Council had ever enacted. Back on New Busan Station, life was slowly returning to normal. The walls were repaired. The dead were buried with honor. Captain Jinho stood in the rebuilt main hall, looking at a memorial wall. Every name of every person who died defending the station was carved into it. Yuna stood beside him. Do you think it was worth it? She asked quietly. Yes, Jinho said. We didn't start this fight, but we finished it. And now everyone in the galaxy knows. You don't mess with humans. You don't attack our homes. You don't threaten our families. Because we'll fight back with everything we have, and we won't stop until you regret ever starting the fight. Minho joined them. He had a new scar on his face from the final battle. "I got a message from Earth. They want to turn New Busan into a military academy. Train new officers here. They're calling it the place where humanity proved what it could do." "Good," Jinho said. "Let them come. Let them learn. Let them remember what we did here." Across the galaxy, in military academies and universities, a new subject was being taught. Human psychology, human tactics, human history. Every species wanted to understand these newcomers who had defeated one of the strongest empires in the galaxy. They studied Earth's wars, the tactics that humans had developed over thousands of years, the willingness to sacrifice, the refusal to surrender, the ability to adapt and overcome, and they all came to the same conclusion. Humans were different, dangerously different. The Galactic Council database was updated. Where it once listed humans as Category 4, non-threatening, it now said Category 1, existential threat. Species were advised to maintain peaceful relations with Earth at all costs. Provoking humans was considered an act of extreme foolishness. New diplomatic protocols were written. When meeting with human representatives, show respect. Don't make threats. Don't try to intimidate. Because humans didn't respond to intimidation the way other species did. They responded with violence. Lieutenant Suri and Engineer Kwan met at a bar on New Busan Station. They had both survived the war. They had both earned medals. They raised their glasses in a toast. "To the friends we lost," Suri said. "To the home we saved," Kwan added. They drank. Around them, other survivors did the same. They had paid a terrible price. But they had won. They had protected their home. They had shown the galaxy what humans could do when threatened. Somewhere in the galaxy, a young alien student studied a human history book. She read about Earth's wars, about the Holocaust, about the atomic bombs, about the millions who died in conflicts that spanned centuries. She read, and she understood. Humans weren't peaceful because they loved peace. They were peaceful because they knew the cost of war. They had paid that cost over and over. They knew how terrible violence could be, so they avoided it when possible. But when forced to fight, they became the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. Because they had thousands of years of practice. On Earth, in the military command center, Admiral Hyun looked at the final casualty reports. 4,000 humans had died in the war. 4,000 people who would never go home. He had won the war, but the cost kept him awake at night. His aide entered. "Sir, message from the Council. They're asking if Earth is satisfied with the peace terms." Hyun thought about it. "Tell them yes. Tell them Earth wants peace. We always wanted peace. But tell them something else too. Tell them that if anyone attacks us again, if anyone threatens our people, we'll respond the same way. With everything we have. No mercy. No hesitation. Just consequences." "Yes, sir." Admiral Hyun looked out the window at Earth. His home. A small blue planet that had produced the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Not because they wanted to be dangerous, but because they had to be, because survival demanded it. And in the Galactic Council chambers, a new sign was hung. Written in every major language of the galaxy, it said simply, "Do not mess with humans." It wasn't a threat. It was a warning. It was advice. It was the newest and most important rule in galactic politics. The Vraloks had learned this rule the hard way. They had paid for their ignorance with half their empire. But at least they learned. And every other species in the galaxy looked at Earth and thought the same thing. We're glad they're on our side. Because if humans were ever our enemies, we wouldn't survive. Years later, when new species joined the Galactic Council, the first thing they were told was simple. Be polite to the humans. Be respectful. Never threaten them. Never attack them. Because humans are survivors. They're fighters. They're predators, wearing the mask of civilization. And if you make them take that mask off, you'll regret it for however long you have left to live. It became known as the first rule, the most important rule, the rule that kept the peace. Don't mess with humans. The war was over. The lesson was learned. and the galaxy was forever changed. Humans had arrived among the stars not as conquerors, but as survivors. And the universe had learned to respect that, to fear that, to remember that. Because in the end, every species learned the same truth. Humans might not be the strongest. They might not be the fastest. They might not be the smartest, but they were the most dangerous. And they always would be.